Would you like to work closer to home, save money on gas, and be rewarded for your hard work and attendance? Then Bellisio Foods is looking for you. That's right, Bellisio Foods is now hiring for multiple positions and shifts with great employee benefits, an on-site health clinic, competitive wages, and advancement opportunities. Bellisio Foods is a company that truly values their employees. Apply online at belisiofoods.com/careers.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to It is Friday, Football Friday, here in our Total Media Main Street TV studio, where we are going to talk about all things Jackson Ironman and playoffs today with Dan, and Pete. We never get Dan, and Pete here.
We got all three today.
We got Dan, and Pete, all three here today, and we are so happy to have you. I was threatened by Pete Wilson yesterday. I mean, he got real down and dirty about threatening me.
He does get feisty at times.
He does get feisty about that I was not allowed to wear red and black because that is the competition. So this is why Jen has on a purple shirt today. I am Switzerland.
I didn't get the memo, so what am I wearing?
Red and black.
Red and black. But my black is for the Buckeyes. There is a fairly big Buckeye game this week too.
Well, that's true too.
We got to think about that also.
Pete gets feisty. I'm telling you. He was like, "Do not wear red and black, or I will kill you."
As you can see the contrast there, if you're watching right now. Purple along with red, does that mix?
It does not.
Okay, well that's okay.
No.
We'll roll with it.
But Pete and I look like vomit most of the time, don't we?
Okay, well that was
He
a
wears
nice thing
plaid,
to say.
I wear plaid. It just looks like vomit. So, anywho, but no, we are going to talk about all things Jackson Ironman today, the playoff game, of which we were so thrilled to find out that we got a home playoff game.
This time last Friday, we were thinking we were going to be in the playoffs, probably a number 9 seed, and that would send us probably a 3-hour drive away to Dover, or New
Ohio.
Philadelphia, or somewhere where I've never been.
Somewhere where you got to do the GPS, the Google, punch it in there. Okay, this is where we're going.
Listen, I have a good friend that lives in Dover, and you can't get there from here. Yeah. I promise you.
2 hours and 46 minutes on
it's
what I checked.
It's a ways.
There was and the other possibility was, say we make that drive and win. There's a chance we could have been going to Steubenville the next week.
So same, but worse.
The Dover drive is a piece of cake compared to Steubenville. So we were in the wrong spot. But New Philadelphia came through for us, beat Dover, allowed us to move up to 8, so we get a home game.
Woohoo!
And if we do win, we will travel to more like Columbus for Bishop Watterson. So, and nobody wants to play Bishop Watterson. They're outstanding. But we certainly wouldn't mind the opportunity.
We've played them in the past.
Yes, we have, and we've won.
And we've beat them
Watterson.
in the past.
Yes.
But they're very talented this year, and so it's going to be exciting tonight. We're looking forward to it, not only because it's a home game.
Thank you.
But because, right. I mean, it's just the crowd. The home crowd for Jackson is going to be outstanding tonight, and we'll need every bit of it we can get there.
Good weather also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Little cooler today, 50s tonight probably, but
That's
clear
perfect,
skies.
though.
Football weather.
Sweatshirts and
Think about this season. We are going to say you could have worn shorts to every one of the Jackson Ironman football games if you wanted to.
You're not kidding. Yeah.
But 2 of those games, the weather was so bad we had to finish them on a Saturday. So that's unique, but it still wasn't because of cold. It was storms and lightning and things like that.
Hurricanes that we had in Ohio.
Yes.
Go figure.
But we've been blessed with weather. So tonight, if it's in the 50s, it's supposed to be in the 50s at this time of year.
Finally football weather.
Oh, the players are going to love it. That's
yes.
perfect weather for players. And and fans also. It should be a great night up there at Alumni Stadium.
Well, let's get into we'll get into the game here in just a moment, but Pete, I know, or whoever else has all the details. Tickets are a little bit different with these playoff games. So can we talk about the logistics of how folks watching can actually get themselves into the game?
Waylon Massey put out the information this week. He's our
Okay.
athletic director. We get an easier week. We don't have to drive 3 hours to a game. Waylon Massey gets a tougher week as the AD because
He
he's
has
going
to
to
host
be
that
he's
game,
hosting
yes,
this
yes.
game, but does a fabulous job.
Yes.
But now the OSHAA has wised up a little bit. Remember, you used to have to buy tickets online for
Yeah.
all tournaments,
It
and
was-
did that. That makes old people like us upset. We're not very
It
good
wasn't
with that
cool.
kind of technology. No. And there'd be issues. Your card doesn't take. You don't have it on your phone. It was just a problem. So now they have wised up enough. You can pre-buy the tickets, but tickets are $11 for adults. There are no passes anymore because of the playoffs on there. There are no booster seats anymore. Jackson has that middle sections
You're
are booster
wiped
seats.
clean,
It's first come, first
Okay.
serve. So you don't have your regular booster seat, but $11 will get you in. You can buy a ticket tonight. And I think everything opens up at 5:30. So you can buy a
Okay.
ticket as of 5:30. It has to be cash. You can't throw the card up there. You could
Okay.
have done a card earlier and bought it online, but the cash has to be done tonight. It's got to be a cash purchase. Students are $5. But my understanding is, Pete, I don't know if you know more about that, but I have read the first 200 students that have a voucher, there's going to be somebody has made a donation to pay for.
Man, that is so cool.
It's so neat. The first 200 get in free. So they are trying hard because our students have gone all year long for free because
Of
of
course.
community donations, which is, we've talked about this.
As they should.
How special Jackson is when
Yeah.
people step up and, go to bat for the school, the sports, the athletics, whether it's the play, the band, whatever. There's massive donations. And once again, 200 students get in free tonight. So that is there. But students are $5, adults are $11, and that's just part of the playoffs. And this is where the OSHA makes their money.
Well, of course.
And that's why they've expanded the field since COVID. Used to be, we started this playoff thing, which we were around back then, way back in 1996. That was the first time Jackson got in the playoffs. And it ends up the first playoff game might be one of the very best playoff games we've ever been involved with. It was only 4 teams got in instead of 16 in your region. So you're already in a regional semifinal contest. We are playing an undefeated Hillsborough team. And we were undefeated, Coach Jim Reynolds, and maybe some will debate, maybe as good a Jackson team that there's ever been.
Yep.
But they take on Hillsborough down at Portsmouth on a brisk,
Brisk.
really
That's-
cold,
that's-
really cold night.
That's a politically correct term.
The Ironman wins.
Brutal.
The Ironman wins 7-3. We still all remember that game so well. But that starts the process, and Jackson has played 31 playoff games since then.
That's awesome.
This is the 32nd one tonight. And one of the things I'm probably most proud of with these two birds on both sides of me is that we have broadcast every one of them. And what a thrill. It's a natural high for us. Talk about easy to get up today, to come in and talk to you.
Sure.
We get excited still. I mean, it's
Yeah.
fun. The whole community gets excited. It's Jackson football, and it's a very special thing, and looking forward to it tonight.
That's right. All right, so get those tickets. You can you still get them online? Do we know?
I think you can today.
Yes.
But yeah, so if you want to come to the gate, bring cash.
Now, what you can't do, though, even though it's online now, you cannot, as you do during the regular season, go to the high school, the middle school, several other places around, including Total Media, and get a physical ticket.
Okay.
You cannot do that. That's another thing that you can't do. And also, OHSA, they did make some changes, but we have to say this. They were kind of pushed into it by the legislature. Legislation was
Well,
passed because of all the HECAC last year.
listen.
When, you
They listened.
Right, and one of the rules was the students have to have a lower price. Now, they jacked it up for the adults, but the students have to have a lower price, and you have to be able to get a physical ticket at the gate. Or you have to give them the availability, the chance, the opportunity to do that. Before, you had to get them in advance.
It makes me laugh because you can't get politicians to agree on whether the sky is blue or not. But You want to talk about people getting ticked off about sports one way or the other? They came together pretty quick and figured this one out.
Tell a grandparent they can't come watch their grandbaby play football tonight.
Yeah.
You want to see a fired up person. Yeah.
Exactly. I can't even imagine the poor intern or page that had to answer all of those phone calls in
Yes.
Columbus.
They did get it. They did get it fixed.
But they did get it fixed.
Much better. But just real quick before we go into the game, a little bit of geography and history, because a lot of folks don't know a whole lot about New Philadelphia. Not only their football team,
Right.
but New Philadelphia, period.
Just in general.
It is
We
an-
know they're Quakers.
Yeah, the Quakers, right? And there's a reason they're called that. Tuscarawas County, which is in eastern Ohio. If you're going there, you'll end up on I-77. It's right off I-77. It's closer to Canton than it is Columbus.
Yep.
But anyway, the town was laid out like Philadelphia. That's why they called it New Philadelphia. And that's why
Really?
the school is called the Quakers, because, of course, the Quakers settled Pennsylvania. But the school goes back a long way, just like the town does. It's mainly a city school. Most of the students live in the city of New Philadelphia. Its sister city is Dover, which is right on the other side of the river. So when they play, it's just like the old days when Jackson played Wellston.
Sure,
So
that
that's
rivalry.
why it was so satisfying to New Philadelphia last week. Not only did they beat their arch rival, who was also very good, they were going to be in the playoffs as well. Now they have to travel instead of host. But they are sister cities. They've played each other since 1896, and New Philadelphia might
Wow.
have been just a little bit of an underdog in that game, but they won 42-24, one of their best games of the year.
Wow.
So anyway, here is the link that Ironman fans and Ohio State fans can appreciate about New Philadelphia. One of their first coaches was the late Woody Hayes. That's where he started his high
No
school.
way.
Right. He in the 1930s.
Wow.
In the 1930s, he went 17-2-1 at New Philadelphia. He packed his bags because he could go other places after that. Of course, went into college, coached at Miami, and then the rest is legendary.
Yes.
But the stadium is Woody Hayes Stadium at
Really?
New Philadelphia. So they've got a little bit of a football heritage too.
I'd say
Both
so.
of these teams come in on 5-game winning streaks, and I think it's safe to say probably playing their best football of the year. So I mean, it's going to be a really good matchup.
That's my excuse for the red and black, as Pete already stole my thunder. That
Well, we
is
will say-
a traditional
Homage
Woody
to-
Hayes hat.
Okay, we'll give you that one, Dan Morrow.
It is, and it's my favorite Buckeye hat, and it has been for all time. So pretty special, but so neat thinking about a young Woody Hayes. Can you visualize him in 1938?
I don't know
Still
that
in a
anyone.
white shirt with the tie.
Yeah, I
no-
don't know
and
that
no matter how
anyone
cold
can.
it was.
And was he the same fiery Woody Hayes that he became at Ohio State, or
I can't see him being any other way.
No, I
Right?
don't think that's Woody. That would be Woody. And moved right up the ladder, and the next thing you know, he's the all-time winningest Big Ten head coach. And even though the Iowa coach is very close to him right now, but he still has the most wins of any Big Ten coach
wild.
ever.
My guess is maybe he didn't pass quite as much as they do now.
He didn't pass, period.
yeah, right?
Haven't you ever heard about 3 yards?
Yeah, 3 yards at a cloud us, and Woody was the one who said, when you pass, 3 things can happen, and 2 of them are bad: an incomplete and an interception, of course.
Makes sense.
Yep.
The odds are against you, aren't they?
Yeah.
if you think
Well,
about
it
it
worked
that
out.
way.
It worked out for him.
Yes, sure did. All right, well, let's get into this game. Let's talk about it.
Gosh, I'll start a little bit. The
Please.
Ironmen have a 8-2 record, and New Philadelphia comes in at 7-3. But when you go back and look at the 3 games that they lost, the first one is you can't explain it. They lost to a 1-9 Mansfield senior team in overtime, and that's crazy. But how they did that. But the other 2
Interesting.
losses were single-digit losses to 2 10-0 teams, Ashland and Steubenville. So, I think they probably, by looking at the paper, with the exception of Ironton, probably had a tougher schedule than Jackson did. I don't know much about those teams, but just looking at on paper, I would think that. But the Ironmen are coming in at 8-2. The big loss week number 2 to Ironton at home. And everybody knows how good they are this
I was
year.
gonna say, who doesn't lose to Ironton? Like, come on.
What we got to
Unashamed.
remember is we were up 14 to 12 minutes before halftime, and it kind of got away from
Yeah.
us on there. But we played them probably for at least nearly 2 quarters, as well as anybody did all year long,
Sure.
except for the one loss they had, which was playing an amazing team.
A national Canada team.
Yeah.
On there. So very good. Danny just mentioned, talk about 2 things. We'll talk today about how these teams mirror each other.
Okay.
Very similar, but look at their schedule. Week 5 for each team. They lost to Mansfield Senior 20-19 in overtime. Jackson loses to Hamilton Ross by 7 points in a game which we had so many weird situations happen on there. I mean, we had a 2.5-hour bus ride, which New Philly's going to have today. We had a player ejected that soon got overruled because it was a bad call. We had a catch at the goal line, which was called on the 1-inch line. A couple tough calls. We had 2 of our main players were injured, but we lost the game. And I had an opportunity last night to talk with Coach Andy Hall, and I did ask him, I said, do you think that was a loss that kind of boosted us along?
Did us some good.
And as a coach, and he said, no loss is ever good, but sometimes you learn from it.
Sure.
Well, from that point on, Jackson went into the Frontier Athletic Conference and outscored their next foes by a total of 232 points to 41. 3 of those were shutouts. That's an average of 46-8 we won our league in. So obviously after that heartbreaker at Hamilton Ross, we
Lit a
played
little
very
fire,
well.
didn't they?
On the other hand, they win 5 in a row after that last loss. They had lost to 2 10-0 teams, and then that 20-19 overtime loss. They win 5 in a row coming into tonight. In their passing game, the first game of the year, they threw like for 78 yards and rushed for 200.
Yeah.
The last game of the year, they throw for nearly 300 yards and hardly rush the ball at all. It's pretty amazing how they've evolved. But we're going to have a contest today against 2 outstanding quarterbacks statistically. They both have thrown for near the same yardage for the whole
Really?
year. And I got notes here, but Keaton Fossil, he was 133 for 195. That's attempts and completions. 68%, threw for 20 touchdowns and threw for 1,788 yards. Bodie Wooford was 91 for 133, threw fewer times, but threw for 1,771 yards, exactly 17 yards less, but threw for 24 touchdowns. That's eerie how close those stats are. Now, the thing about their quarterback, too, that I think jumps out, he's their leading rusher also. So that's going to be a factor in tonight's game. He's rushed for over 500 yards. He's rushed for, I had it on there, touchdowns.
Is it 12?
No, touchdowns. He rushed for, I'm looking at my notes. And it was like 7 touchdowns on top of the 20 touchdowns that he's thrown. So he's a true threat. One of the biggest differences I see when I look at the stats, though, is the fact they don't have a Nolan Johnson. Nolan Johnson, for us, has rushed for over 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns on the ground. We are a little more dependent on our rushing the football, even though we do throw it probably better than any Jackson team maybe in history on there.
Well, that's saying
if
something.
If you want to debate it, it's not bad. It's not bad. But we've got a good combination of running and throwing. They are mainly, especially the last 5 weeks of the season, have leaned on their passing attack. So what it says to me, it's going to be entertaining.
No doubt.
They can throw the ball around. They can catch it. They can make big plays. Their top receiver, I saw his longest catch is 79 yards, so they have potential to do some very good things. Their quarterback, he will tuck and run. They'll play a one-back type backfield, but they don't hand off that much. It's going to be in his, capabilities, which they trust him obviously to do that.
How old is their quarterback?
He's the 3-year starter. He's a senior.
Yep.
He's a senior this year.
Been starting for 3 years for him. Bodie Wolford's starting for 2. He's a junior.
Yep.
Oh, but we'll talk about that here this interview. But he's all-league player for the Ironman this year, and we had some others, including the Player of the Year. And so, but
that's a news flash. We better let the newsman do that.
Yes, absolutely.
But
That's why I'm holding it back. We put those teases out, but I'm just holding it back there for a little bit. But so the 2 teams do mirror each other very closely.
Right.
That is interesting.
Right. And Coach Johnson of New Philadelphia, Ethan Sargent with Eric Landrum's Football Friday Night Crew. You want to listen to that pre-game show tonight from Alumni Stadium. Eric will be in here a little bit later to kind of tell us about that. But I heard that interview ahead of time, and he talked about how Keaton Fossil started as a sophomore, and he was mainly like a runner/athlete. He was more likely to tuck and run than throw the ball. He transformed himself over 3 years and really has grown up as a superb elite passer this year, even though he still has the threat to run. When you look at the stats, Dan rolled off the yardage and the touchdowns. He only has 2 interceptions. The team, through 10 games, playing a pretty tough schedule, only 7 turnovers. So this is a team. This is a team that doesn't beat itself. What do coaches always talk about a big game? What's important? You say, well, we got to make some big plays, and we don't want to have turnovers.
Yes.
So this is a team coming in tonight that has a track record of not beating itself. So that's going to be very big. Jackson has not had a lot of turnovers. It had a total of 12, which isn't bad for 10 games, and their opponents have had like 17, so they forced more turnovers than the other. Jackson's defensive backfield has 12 interceptions, which is pretty good. But Jackson is going to have to do this. This was one thing that Coach Hall said in the interview with Ethan Sargent. They throw a lot of shorter passes. New Philadelphia does. Bodie for Jackson will throw all types of passes, but he'll throw down the field maybe a little more than Fossil will. But Fossil will throw short passes in the backfield to the flats, and then it's up to our guys to tackle those guys in space. That is going to be key to minimize the yardage gained on passes. One of the big advantages, if you look on the stat sheet, as good as Fossil is, Bodie's average yards per completion, I know we're getting numerical here, but this is important, is about twice what New Philadelphia is. So Jackson tends to get bigger plays, which indicates not only the ability of our receivers to run after they catch, but throwing the ball down the field.
Sure.
I'll defer to these two guys because they've watched all the games just like I have. But Bodie Wolford has a 68% or just under 68% percentage rate. For a quarterback in high school, that is fantastic. And I've said this on the air and I said it to these guys. Bodie is not a dinker, which means he just doesn't throw those short passes. He throws down the field, and he has been one of the most accurate quarterbacks that we have seen. We can't remember everything because we go back too far, but he is certainly one of the most accurate quarterbacks that we have seen at Jackson High School.
The passing game has evolved so much, and so when I think that I can remember pretty clearly back to about 1967, 66 in that era. But back then,
a few years ago, you
didn't throw the ball. You didn't throw the ball a few times, and so when
even when I was in high school, I don't feel like
went for 2 on after touchdowns. You never kicked an extra point.
But with the fact that Bodie has thrown 24 touchdowns in a 10-game season, we think, and we're 99.9% sure it's the most ever by a Jackson quarterback in a season. I know we've had 20 before, 19, a couple other times. We've tried to look back and find this. Bodie threw 17 last year, so we're pretty sure he's, providing major injury, he's going to be the all-time touchdown passer in the history of Jackson, which is so unique.
Being so young, too.
Junior now, but as a sophomore,
but as starting as
a
sophomore,
I just think
and
about,
only growing.
And we mentioned this once before, the Wooford family.
Yeah, it's in the genes.
Daddy Shane, one of the great Jackson players of all time, statistically and running back and all that. His son is the all-time Cade, who is now playing at Kent State, is the all-time touchdown maker. And I've said before, if anybody knows of anyone scoring more touchdowns than Cade, but Cade scored 8 more than his father did, and we were pretty sure Shane was the all-time touchdown maker. So Cade, we think, has the most touchdowns ever for Jackson. Bodie is on path and might be there right now or very close to it.
And he's got another year. We're working on those numbers, by the way. We're working on those.
Yes, but he'll be the all-time touchdown passer. So pretty proud dad, I would think so on there. And I know a proud granddad in Ted.
Yeah, right,
my buddy Ted. Oh, my gosh. But that stuff is fun. But here, listen to this. We're talking about the eerie connection between these two teams. These are all-time, and Pete delves in history, but I looked this up. Jackson has won 659 games in their history, dating way back in 1898, whatever it was. Dover started in 1896 They have won 697 games. Now, we are 659 wins, 421 losses, 46 ties, 606 winning percentage on the history. They are 697 wins, 440 losses, 48 ties, 608 winning percentage.
Okay, that's weird.
That is unique. That is unique.
Strange.
And if you are over 600 wins in the state of Ohio, you're in it's a unique group. It's special, and it kind of dictates you are a bit of a football school. So they have to like their football very similar to the way we like it here, which we know how special Jackson football is here on Friday nights. So
absolutely.
Yeah, the more you looked into this, the more it just got very interesting, and it just looks like. And as Danny said, there may be one of the better 7-3 teams around.
Sure.
2 close losses to 10-0 teams and an overtime loss. They're right there.
You know what I'm curious about, and I know there's probably not a statistic on this. Get on it, Pete. What are the percentages of teams that have to travel over? I mean, what is the disadvantage to having to get on a bus and travel 3 hours to get to the game?
Here would be my thought. We tried that at Hamilton Ross and traveled 2.5 hours and had some other issues, but that was our last loss.
It has to be a disadvantage, and I would love to know.
I was talking to Tyler Jeffers this week, an assistant coach for Jackson.
Sure.
Really an emotional guy, great guy.
Yeah, love him.
But he kind of said same thing. If you're thinking about it, you usually think home field is a 3-point advantage for college and pros when they're talking that stuff. He thought it's a definite 7-point advantage. He thinks it has to.
Just the wear and tear on your emotions and just.
These kids got up at the crack of dawn this morning to get ready for school, went to school for a little while. I don't know when you get them out, but you got to get them on that bus.
They got to get out here early.
You don't want to pull the bus up at 5 or 5:30 and be kicking off at 7. You got to get a meal in them. I mean, there's just so much scheduling.
There's a lot of logistics involved in that, and it has to be some sort of disadvantage.
And
sure.
What about the psychology of it? If you're playing at home, not only are you more comfortable, but you're thinking, this is my turf. They're not going to come in here and beat us.
Exactly.
And you're going to obviously have more fans probably than the other team.
I've got grandparents and parents and aunts and uncles and cousins and everybody here to watch.
Last week with the Chillicothe win, which is our rival game in the Frontier Athletic Conference, we clinched the league championship and that. But our kids assumed they were not going to play on that field against the seniors.
Correct. There were all kind of posts out there about that.
They all hung around forever. They took the pictures, the traditions, and all. And then late that night, they started to find out they get to play again. So
Just
what
surprise.
a treat. They have to be excited.
They do.
have to be excited about
Absolutely.
Right. And we said this on the radio. We're going to try to beat New Philadelphia tonight, but we want to thank them because their victory over Dover in that Week 10 game allowed us to be at Alumni Stadium.
Yeah.
And it earned New Philadelphia the right to travel to us as the number 9 seed. As we said earlier in the week when we were going over the news, 8 and 9, there's a big difference.
Absolutely.
Just more stats. We throw numbers at you. This is the 19th time Jackson has been in the playoffs, which is pretty unique. That's great. That's great
pretty
stuff.
good.
8 straight years we've been in the playoffs. We're spoiled as fans. Other high schools don't get that luxury. Sure, there are some. Everybody says Ironton and Wheelersburg and those teams, but that's so unique. That's a 1% kind of thing. We are 13-18 in the history of playoffs. But remember, every time you get in, you're going to lose unless you win a state championship.
Right. You have to lose at some point. There's only one team that doesn't.
We've played 31 playoff games. We are 9-3 at home. And a couple of those included playing down at the old middle school before we had Alumni Stadium. We're 8-2 when we have a playoff game in Alumni Stadium.
Okay.
That bodes well. We like those stats.
Yep.
Coach Andy Hall, we have won 13 playoff games in the history of Jackson. He's won 10 of them. He's 10-11 in his tenure here, in which we have been in 12 of the last 16 years out of Andy's tenure. We have made the playoffs, which is pretty special. New Philadelphia, 17 appearances, opposed to our 19, but they have a 5-16 record in the playoffs. Not quite as good. Obviously, you're going to lose once every year, too. They've been in 5 straight, though, and they've been in 13 of the last 14. So their football is on an upswing. So it's amazing when you look at these numbers, how this is setting up tonight for a really outstanding high school football game.
What do you know about the fans and their travel habits of New Philadelphia? Anybody know?
Absolutely zero right now.
Okay, well, we're fixing to find out here in
Let
a
us
little
get
bit.
back with you about 7 o'clock
Yeah,
tonight
right, I
on
know.
there. We will tell you.
You just wonder. I mean, and if people don't think fans make a difference, they're
they make a
sadly
difference.
I
mistaken.
know when we went to Hamilton Ross and played, Dan's mentioned 2.5 hour plus drive on a Friday night of the Apple Festival. I mean, Jackson fans traveled well. The stands were full.
Yeah.
And of Jackson fans. So I would anticipate, we've talked about the similarities between these two teams. I would anticipate New Philadelphia having this about the same.
Okay.
With those kind of numbers in their history, they got to be as excited about
They
this as
have
we
to
are.
be, yeah.
They are.
It might be a little,
Yeah.
you
They
know-
were just, their big question was not if they're going to go, but how to get there.
Yes, that's right.
And where are they going to eat?
I have an idea.
And you've got space.
Oh, you'll have that red and black shirt on.
That's
won't
right.
won't you?
Yeah,
Just in
I'll-
case.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know, right? But no, and if people don't think that these, and coming from a business standpoint, if people don't think that these playoff games, and no matter what sport you're talking about, we're sitting here talking about football today, but if they don't think that they're not a boon for the economy of whatever area they're in, you're sadly mistaken.
We hosted, I think it's a regional semifinal soccer game just last night. Our alumni stadiums hosted a handful of the soccer games.
Yes, and we were
tournament-wise.
extremely busy,
I'll
which
bet. I'll bet.
is and this is, and it's not restaurants only, it's convenience stores and
Gas
grocery
station,
stores and gas stations and all of the things that people stop and get. So while perhaps the school isn't making a ton of money and it may be a kind of a headache for them to host, the rest of us do okay.
Now we growl about paying for parking, but that's one way they can make some money on it. In concessions, you don't make much. You don't make any money on the tickets.
Correct.
So grit your teeth, pay your $11, but come in and support the concessions. Both concessions. You have the band boosters on the home
And
side.
it's good
Oh,
too.
it's out. A veal there is
Yeah.
outstanding, and you've got the Mothers Club on the visitor side. So support both of those. That's money makers for those groups, and that money goes right back into our kids.
This is
So
why
that's
our kids
important.
don't pay to play, or part of the reason why.
It is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Big
So
part
thank
of it.
you to all of those that help with that too.
We mentioned Bodie, we mentioned Nolan, and there's so many great players on
Oh,
this team.
yes.
But stat-wise, another one that jumps out at me, we failed to mention, we talk about throwing the ball downfield. The combination of Bodie Wolford to Ryan Simetz has become pretty amazing. Ryan Simetz is having, and once again, we're going to have to study this a little bit, but 45 receptions this year through 10 games.
Dang.
888 yards, might be as many as any, and 11 touchdowns, which we're thinking maybe is as much for a wide receiver in the history of Jackson. Pretty amazing. And it seems like one time every week lately, it's Bodie to Ryan Simetz for a long touchdown pass, usually at one of our first scores of the game. And it really sets a tone on there. And so, he's a very special player. Now, granted, when you talk about Nolan, Ryan, Bodie, all these stats that are amazing, there's an awful lot of football players behind the scenes doing their job that allows these special players,
Sure.
to accumulate these kind of statistics. And it has been a fun year. So, Pete, if you want, maybe throw out, are you ready to do an all FAC? They just announced the all FAC team, which is our league team.
Sure.
Pete's going to read the people that made it from our team. I can preface this right away. The 7 or 8 or whatever that are going to be listed on here, there's probably that many more that should have been, because once again, remember, we outscored the league 232 to 41. So we obviously had top players in the league. And the sad thing is, you only are going to get so many on the thing, and your head coach cannot vote for any of his own players. Makes it difficult. So these are from the other players. Well, the other coaches are going to try to get as many as they can on too. It's part of the coaching thing. But we really could have used 5, 6, 7 more players on that. Justified.
Legitimately, yeah.
Yes, legitimate all-league quality players. But go ahead, newsman.
Right. Well, segueing into this, building on what Dan just said, one of the strengths of this Jackson team is their depth of talent. We're talking about the number of players. We're talking about the number of contributors. Yes, there certainly are some standout stars. We talked about Bodie, talked about Nolan Johnson, talked about Ryan Simons. But there's a lot of players that contribute not only statistically, but kind of on those things that are not so quite evident. Like blocking and tackling and like that. But the players that made the Frontier Athletic Conference all conference team, first of all, the top honor is Player of the Year, which is Nolan Johnson.
Nice.
And Nolan, of course, is a senior, and he's what was his yardage there, Dan?
1,270 type yards rushing,
Right.
15 touchdowns. That's not including a kickoff return for a touchdown too. That was
And I think
huge
he
in the
caught
Wheelersburg
2
game.
receptions for touchdowns
Yes.
too. So he is a talent, and remember he was the kind of like the second guy behind Cade Wooford for a couple years.
We'll throw that out, Pete. 15 rushing touchdowns, 18 total touchdowns, plus 2 extra points. So
Nice.
he
Yeah,
he
is our
knows
leading
how to
scorer.
get in the end zone.
He is our leading scorer, capable of the big play, capable of getting the tough yards, and he is, by the way, going to the United States Military Academy, aka Army, which of course is having a great season this year
Nice.
in
I
college
believe
football.
they are undefeated.
Wow,
They
okay.
are still.
Well, you don't
It's
hear that
amazing.
all the time, do you?
No, they-
Navy with 1 loss, Army with none.
So cool.
So special.
Yeah, that
so
game
special.
in Philadelphia in December should be a good one.
Yeah.
It always is, but even more so this year. But Nolan Johnson was the Player of the Year, meaning he was picked as the top player in the Frontier Athletic Conference, and that's tough because Jackson itself has other Player of the Year candidates that
Absolutely.
we've talked about. But Nolan, who has started for 2 years, played a lot even as a freshman and a sophomore, very much deserves that. Also, one of the best defensive players we have from an outside linebacker post. So just very, very talented and worked to make himself the best he can be, and an outstanding student on top
Oh,
of that.
4-point plus. He's
Of course.
very special.
Right. So
Man.
so other players, in addition to Nolan, who made first team All FAC Frontier Athletic Conference, of course, you have Bodie Wooford, who, by the way, had to win the quarterback's job as a sophomore. It's not like he was anointed coming up from junior high or whatever. You knew he was going to be a contributor, but at what position? But he won the quarterback position, in a competition as a sophomore, and the rest so far is history. But and he's also gets spot duty as a safety on the defense. Has made some big plays there when he needs to be back there. Ryan Simets, one of the best receivers in Jackson High School history. Not an overstatement. We know that already. He is
Sure.
just a junior. He also plays defense as well. Jacob Allen, probably our top offensive lineman, and only a junior. He's received Division I offers already.
Wow.
Right, from a lineman position.
Small boy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's played both guard and
I'm
tackle.
guessing not so much.
Right, and when a underclassman, last year he was all FAC as a sophomore. When you get that kind of attention as an underclassman, because generally, the postseason awards, when it could go either way, go to the senior because
Sure.
of the career.
I got a laugh last week. Jacob Allen was our Player of the Game award winner.
Uh-huh.
And one of the little girls from the media team was in there, and they heard us announcing him as a winner, and she goes, Jacob Allen, large and in charge. And I said, oh, I wish I'd have thought of that line. What a great
Yeah.
Right, we
line.
need to get her
I had
on
to
the
give
air.
credit.
Yeah,
Yeah, she was
exactly.
good. But yeah, he's and a great young man too. Well, I
Good.
mean, these kids, they're great kids. I mean, you don't have success usually with, kids that aren't pretty high on the food chain, as I'd like to say.
But then another all-league player and a guy who does just so much in so many different ways is Tucker Williams. He is another senior. He runs the ball some in the backfield. He can catch passes, gets down the field and catches long passes. Very good running after he catches the ball or if he gets in the open. Also an outstanding defensive back for the Ironmen, have made some big plays. The Ironmen have not given up a lot of big plays, especially the second half of the season, and he is one of the reasons.
Leading tackler.
A nose to the ball.
Yep.
I didn't know he was the leading tackler, but I'm not surprised to hear that.
Sure.
It's not because it's not because he's tackling the guys who catch the ball necessarily. He's coming up and making plays against in the running game.
And we call him our Swiss Army knife. He's just he
can do it all.
Any position, quarterback. He's done that as a backup.
Well, that was going to be my next question.
He's played a lot since he's a freshman too.
Sure. You get to college, you get to the NFL. It would not even be heard of for a player to play both sides of the ball. In high school, it can be a thing.
Your best. Most schools need to have their best players go both ways.
I can't even imagine the mental and physical stress that would take on a kid. I mean, they never get off the field. Physically, you're dying. You have to be dying.
And a lot of them are three-sport athletes. They'll go straight from football to basketball or wrestling, and then from that into spring sports.
And plus maintaining, their 4.0s or their whatever. You're just like, how on earth do they do all of that?
Tucker's another 4+ kind of academic young man.
It's
very
crazy.
special.
Right, does a lot of community service on some of the extracurricular groups, like the National Honor Society and Student Council. But he's a very, very good kid as well. Then another FAC first team choice is Ryan Taylor. Ryan is the son of a longtime assistant coach Jake Taylor, and his grandfather Jake played. His uncle played also, and then his grandfather played football. The late Larry Taylor. He was an Ironman fan. But Ryan plays a little bit of offense. He played tight end. But his big contribution has been as a defensive player. He can play on the line. He can move back to linebacker. A very important person, on the defense. Ryan.
I want to throw in there too, Ryan and Tucker, the last two you've talked about, all leagues so deservedly as seniors. Tucker was a safety last year, and we had to move him up to linebacker. Ryan was a defensive tackle last year. We had to move him to linebacker. These are two seniors maybe taken out of their comfort zone a little bit and became our inside linebackers because we needed it, and they did it, and they were outstanding, and their awards are coming to them now.
That's great.
Right, and
well deserved.
And offense is the glitz and all, and you talk about the stats. But on defense, our defense, of course, part of this had a whole lot to do with our non-conference schedule. But we gave up quite a few points and passing yards in the first half of the season. In the second half of the season, of course, we talked about the 3 shutouts in conference play, but the defense has played much better the second half of the season, not just because of the shutouts, but overall, just their tackling, being able to come up with big stops, not giving up big plays while our offense creates big plays on their own. And statistically, our defense is a little bit ahead of the New Philadelphia defense if you just go by points and yards.
Okay.
So we hope that may make a difference. Offensively, they're pretty close. The points per game and the yards per game and like that. The difference is New Philadelphia passes more, gets more of its yards in the air than on the ground. Well, Jackson is a little bit more balanced. But the other player, our last first-team All-FAC player, is Bryce Delaney. And he is the guy who is behind the scenes doing the down and dirty work. He's scored a few touchdowns. He's run the ball a little bit. But basically, he is the fullback in the offense, the up back. He's out there blocking, making the way through Nolan Johnson, helping protect Bodie in the backfield. And then on defense, he is about as tough as a defensive lineman as you'll find.
Oh, absolutely. And it comes natural to him. We talk about other traditions. His dad, I was lucky enough to get to coach him at linebacker. He was that way. He was a linebacker, but Bryce is up there in the trenches and just tough as can be. And last game at Chillicothe, he did a Sam Bam Cunningham dive over the top for a 1-yard touchdown. And that's
You're
it,
dating
dating
yourself,
ourselves.
yeah.
I know back in Rose Bowl history against the Buckeyes, but he did it 4 times. Well, Bryce did it the 1 time, but it was really neat to see him score as a senior that week 10 on there.
Right,
That's
and
awesome.
he is definitely kind of like an old school type player. That's exactly the way his father was. too.
Absolutely.
Right, we can say that because we've broadcast multi-generational players
Yes, we have.
already.
Does that freak you out a little bit?
It's just a number, Jennifer.
Okay.
It just, but we do notice, we go, is age catching up to us? We do notice this. We have complained to Waylon Massey and Pat Stevens before them about them adding steps up to the press box every year at Alumni Stadium.
a little
It
taller.
just gets higher every year.
They've added more. That's all I can say. And then we had an honorable mention.
Okay.
All the teams in the FAC got at least one honorable mention, and our honorable mention was one of those offensive linemen. Usually lines up there, sometimes alongside Jacob Allen, and that is Colson Oyer. I believe he's a senior.
Senior,
He is.
outstanding senior season. Should have been all FAC, but we ran out of spots.
What do you do?
There are so many on our team that are just shy of being all league. We just mentioned them, but he's one of those. But he got honorable mention, so congratulations to Colson.
Absolutely.
Right, and that team just announced, I think it might have been yesterday or on Wednesday, our sports coverage in the Telegram on Saturday. We won't have the game in there because of the print deadlines. You all know that, who are regular readers. But we will have a story about the All FAC team, including a list of everybody in the league, in the conference, and also of course coverage of tonight's game will be online at some yawning time in the morning on Saturday mornings. We'll all be working here late doing that.
Question, our media team, man, are they amazing and put forth a product that is unbelievable, our high school media team. Are they allowed to do these playoff games?
The game will be streamed.
It will be streamed, okay.
And in the past, they've used our voices with their video.
Sure.
But I don't think they can do that tonight. In the
I'm not
past,
sure
in the
that
past, they've
yeah.
been
Okay.
they've used some high school students to do.
Here's what I will tell you. If it is being streamed, you can watch it at 6 Cents Brewing because I will put it on for you.
It will be there.
That's great.
Yes.
And there will be people there watching.
And I'm sure.
Yes.
When
Enjoying a great meal.
Yes, I hope so. No, it is interesting when the season started this year because we didn't open until the season was over by the time we opened last year. So people were like, "Can you put the high school game on?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah." I mean,
Evan tells me it's been on every week.
it has
up
been,
there,
and
yeah.
I didn't think that anybody would watch. And you walk through, and the whole place is going.
And how about Saturday afternoon about noon? You might want to have a game on.
Might want to have
also.
that
Yes.
game on as
yes,
well.
Yes, I think so.
For sure.
Hey,
Absolutely.
one shout out because I know Eric's going to come on here in a second.
Yeah.
Basketball is starting. Girls basketball is already 1 week into practice. Boys basketball's first
Unbelievable.
practice is Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. I've got kind of a close situation there as I root hard
Little
for the
bit.
basketballs. Really
Yeah.
enjoy it. They are involved right now with their biggest fundraiser of the year, the Basketball Bash. They are selling tickets. It's a $100 ticket. Every basketball player is expected to sell 2 tickets. It does get them equipment and shoes. It's a huge thing for our basketball program. But
Okay.
if you're out there, if you're willing, the winner is going to win $5,000, or the last 5 could share $1,000 each. It's their call.
Okay.
But it is a pretty exciting thing. It will be drawn a week from Sunday, so it's coming right around the corner. But support our basketball kids also. This community is spectacular on how they support our sporting teams and our kids in general, our school system. But that is very important, and it's Coach Chad Carpenter for the girls, Coach Max Morrow for the boys. If you would like a ticket, you can always contact me. You can get hold of my son. You can get hold of Chad. But the kids are out there needing to sell these, and it's important for them. It really is great for the program. So go Hoops. It's around the corner. Now, hopefully, we have to worry about a lot more football games.
I was going to say, hopefully, we're totally intertwined with with these
Ideally, my
seasons.
son has to cancel a scrimmage or 2 because he's waiting on his football players to come back.
Right.
So we'll see
Can
what
I have
happens.
them now?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, he can't. Not until they're done.
Not exactly not.
And we root for health. Also, a shout out to Dayton Cowner.
Mm-hmm.
He's a sophomore on our football team. And if you were watching or listening or at the game last week with Chillicothe, he had a really rough-looking tackle put on him.
Okay.
Very awkward looking. Well, he ended up breaking an ankle. He is having surgery today.
Oh.
So prayers and thoughts and everything for Dayton. Dayton was good, had really worked hard for football and basketball as a sophomore. With a little luck and good surgeons, maybe we can get him back for some of the basketball season. But, good luck, Dayton, and, get healthy.
Yes.
That's the main.
All right.
We'll be
and-
thinking of you.
And so we want to now underscore our coverage, which is going to come on several different fronts. Of course, we'll be on the radio. Our trio will be on the radio. It'll be streamed. We'll be tied in with the school stream. But we will come on the air, about 6:40? 6:30. We'll come on the air at 6:30. We'll have the Coach Andy Hall show. He always does a great interview. That'll be part of our pregame, and then kickoff at 7 p.m. But lately, with the expansion of
Come on over.
Yeah, with the expansion of Total
I'll
Media.
give you my seat. You can talk with these guys.
With the expansion of Total, come on over.
Yeah,
Eric.
come on over,
we
Eric.
we were going to depart, but if that's
No,
what
you guys talk. He can talk way better than I can.
okay, I
I'll
can
give you my seat.
It
You
doesn't
may
feel
have
right.
it.
Get in here and
Take
show
it,
off
it's
your
fine.
Jackson shirt.
Yeah.
What is it?
Show off
he
your
has
Jackson
all black
shirt.
too.
Yes.
Ex-Ironman also. There's some. We've broadcast this guy's games.
Yes, we certainly did.
Right. Eric is in charge of our sports programming here at Total Media, and that's more than just WKOV and the Jackson and Vinton County-based stations. And he has done a great job, hit the ground running, and he has lined up new programming all year during this high school football season. Of course, he and his crew will be out in full force tonight.
Yeah.
So, Eric, first of all, I want to compliment you on what you've done. And I've told you, you need to just put a little lid on the enthusiasm because he is very excited football player and very excited doing this coverage too. And
He works the way he played.
Right. Right. I saw him last week at Ohio University because, that's in our Total Media family now, WATH.
Yeah.
And he interviewed the great Frank Solich.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an
That's
honor.
neat.
Right. Which,
Neat.
I told
winningest MAC coach.
I told
Of
him
all
at the
time.
time that
Yes.
Nebraska would probably like to have him back now.
Yeah.
But anyway, Eric, congratulations for
Thank
what
you.
you've done.
Thank
And
you. Thank
because
you.
it's still new, tell everybody what you'll be doing on coverage tonight.
So I think hit the ground running is probably the best way you could have worded it. And as we get, I thought Halloween was over, but Michael Myers popping his way in and
still around.
looking at us. And
You never know around here, do you?
I thought we were through all that. We got November football in front of us tonight, but hey, it is what it is. So obviously we've expanded in just a short amount of time. We've got a lot more sports coverage going on, and one of the key components of that through football season has been Football Friday Nights, which has this will be our third week in Jackson. We were there for Ironton in week 2. We'll skip over that one because we were back for Western Brown, which was a much better Friday
Much
for the
better.
Ironmen. And we're going to be there. And as a part of Football Friday Nights, we've live streamed that post-game show where we recap the games and talk about that. But we haven't done anything like that with a pregame show. So tonight will be the first night that Football Friday Nights does a live stream with that production. And you can find that broadcast on Total Media Sports YouTube leading up to what you guys do, which is bring everyone the real action for the night. But we got a lot of games to cover. We got a lot of Total Media schools in the playoffs too, representing week 11. And that's awesome as well. So we've got 9 radio games tonight. 4 live streamed games as well. And this is exciting for you guys, I think. We have officially partnered with the OHSAA as an OHSAA radio network affiliate. So your guys' games are going to be broadcasted, and we're going to be super, super tight with the OHSAA going forward to help bring more coverage of games, not only through streaming, but radio as well. And just continuing to grow sports through Total Media.
Right, and we really appreciate Ethan Sargent sharing the taped interviews with the 2 coaches, Coach Johnson and Coach Hall. We had the opportunity to listen to those to kind of educate ourselves a little bit, but I believe that'll be part of your pregame. It'll be neat.
It will
to hear
be.
That.
It will be. Yeah, Ethan's done a great job with the Football Friday Nights broadcast. He is the formal host of that production. Does a phenomenal job. Goes out of his way throughout the week to make sure that we're buttoned up on our game of the week and talking to the voices, the faces of these programs. We had an opportunity to talk with Bill Morgan yesterday on our show, the voice of the Quakers. I was trying to steal some information, maybe figure out how to get a win for the Ironmen tonight. That's a tough Quakers squad, but yeah, Ethan's done a phenomenal job. You'll get to hear some of what his work for the week has been tonight on our broadcast as well, and I'm happy that that's helped out you guys as well.
Okay, and I know that afterwards, and this is a great thing, the pre and the post game coverage.
Yeah.
You get together. You get together live on the air. I believe you usually do it from here in the studio.
That's correct.
you and your panel talk about all the games, not just the
Yeah.
ones broadcast, but you look around the area. How will you do that tonight on round one of the playoffs?
It's so funny you bring that up because we kind of kicked around how we were going to do that coverage tonight in a lot of different ways. And what we decided was we've kept up with some very key regions throughout the year, right? Division 3, Region 11, we see Jackson, Athens, some familiar squads like that. Division 4, Region 15, you got Waverly's, Uniogos of the world, and that Division 5, Region 19 seems to cover every other total media school. So we're going to keep up with it regionally. So we're going to talk about 8 games in each region and talk about not only the matchups that we got going on tonight, but let's say the Ironmen win. They're going to be taking on more than likely Watterson than Warren, if I had to say. So we're going to be talking about those teams as well to give a little bit of coverage and insight on those programs around the region.
All right. Okay. And that starts after all the games are over that we're broadcasting, and what, you go for a while till midnight or so?
Yeah, so if I leave this building before 1 a.m. on a Friday night, I'm pretty happy most of the time. So yeah, we'll go until about 12:30 even tonight. Most games, I think all OHSAA games begin at 7, so that helps us. And it looks like weather is going to keep us on track tonight as well. Clear skies, a little chilly, flannel, sweater weather, but I'm okay with that in November.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm okay with that in November. I figured you guys would be as well.
Don't mind.
So yeah, we're probably going to run that show from about 9:30 is when we usually take the mic to about midnight, like you said.
Do you have an opinion on the Jackson-New Philadelphia matchup?
I do. It's going to be a tough game. And when my brother and I talked with Bill Morgan yesterday, the voice of the Quakers, like I said, I wanted some of that insight from New Philadelphia. They got a nice senior quarterback, dual threat kid who's thrown for over 1,000 yards or run for over 1,000 or close to 1,000, I think. He's done a really good job. Fossil is his last name, Keaton Fossil. Nice sophomore running back as well, Colston Fox, that will see the brunt of the carries if he's handing it off. They play tough defense. They're 10 points from being unbeaten, 6-point loss to Steubenville, another 3-point loss, and a tight 1-point score in an overtime game. Either team, I told Bill, will have to play their best game tonight to advance. And that's the beauty of week 11 in this region. I think Jackson gets it done, though. I got 4 points for
when
the
you think
Ironman.
of 16 teams, we're the 8 seed, they're the 9 seed. It should be a dogfight.
Yeah.
And that's what it's matching up to be.
It is. And how about getting the team that helped you last week to get that home game? That you're getting them at home. So
Dover, what a difference. They're looking at a home game, and now they're looking at what they drop all the way to 12th or so, and they have to travel. I mean, it really was a hard loss for
We've got
them.
Granville, who's undefeated. Am I remembering
That's it.
that?
They're 9-1, I believe.
We've done the Granville thing before, and it's
Not successfully.
Yes.
But once again, the shout out for our region, as we've talked about it all year, how
tough.
strong it is. Our 16th team, Warren, going up against a true mismatch with Watterson. And
Yeah.
Warren's 7-3.
Yeah.
Not 1-9 like some of the regions,
Yeah.
or 3-7. Some of the teams that get in.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody got in that wasn't pretty good in our region this year.
You're exactly right. And even Drew Pastor said it was one of the toughest, if not the toughest region to make the playoffs in the state of Ohio. You had 5-5 squads sitting at 23rd in the region.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Tough
Pretty
region.
amazing.
So the Ironmen have earned it. I don't care what anyone says about the expanded playoffs or anything like that. The Ironmen have earned a home playoff game this year, and I'm excited. I know you guys are excited. It's going to be a great night on the Hill.
We're pumped up.
Can't
Yep,
wait.
Can't wait. Well, gentlemen, thank you. I appreciate everything you guys do. You guys are the true legends of all this, so thank you
We're
for
just
coming and
old,
doing all this.
Eric.
No,
That's all
no.
it is.
The voices of the Ironman.
But we still enjoy it. An
Oh,
awful lot. We're
absolutely,
pumped up.
absolutely. Have a roof over our head, and other than those steps, we're very happy.
Well, and I'm on to you're on to something there. I was
He's
telling Andy
recommended
Hall.
an elevator. Waylon
So did
tends to
Bubba.
turn his head and not listen, like he can't hear us when we say that. But boy, an elevator would be nice.
Well, Bubba used to complain and say the same things about maybe Coach Hall adding stadium stairs, but he only complained about that in the summer as a player. I don't know what that was all about, but
I think I understand.
but,
that
yeah.
was supposed to be for his own.
it was.
well, hey, you guys do your predictions and all the stuff. Who'd Bub pick?
Oh,
And I
Bub-
know who he better have picked.
You know, Bub picked the Ironman. Any toss-up
Absolutely.
game, Bub's going with the red and white. He's been a part of these games on the Hill. And
Blood is thicker than water.
yes, it
always
is. Yes, it is. So
Well, I'll ask you one other question, since you kind of look at it from a regional perspective.
absolutely.
Do you agree that it's Ironton and everybody else?
Oh yeah, Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I know you've seen them all and you studied it.
Yeah. Region 19. I think Barnesville and Wheelersburg, the winner of that 4-3 match or 14-3 matchup tonight in Barnesville, will have the most to say after that. Harvest Prep, I don't think they can score enough points to hang with either of those two teams. I think Barnesville, Ironton, but Ironton, too much
Ironton and
talent.
Ironton. They're
Too
pretty
much
special.
talent.
Pretty special.
I think a Canton run is in store for Ironton this year. I really do.
Do we have, and Ironton is kind of looked upon as a team that could definitely make the state. And you never know. That's why the game's played. Do you see any other teams from our regions, all the way from 3 through 7,
I
that
do.
you think might get to Canton?
I do, and when I look at some of those squads, I look down Beaver Pike, and I look towards Eastern. They're in Division 7, Region 27. I think that's a wide open region. I think Danville is probably the most battle tested team in that region, sitting at 8-2. But Scott Tomlinson, back-to-back unbeaten seasons for the Eastern Eagles right down the way. And
They were a basketball school.
That's what I thought too.
And
but-
basically an infant program.
Yes.
They haven't been playing football that long there. That's pretty
2014.
special. Absolutely.
Yeah,
a
and-
decade of football, and now they're 10-0.
And he's done a phenomenal job, like I said, back-to-back unbeaten seasons. And I think with that region being so wide open, and they are battle-tested. I mean, they kicked off the year with a double overtime win against Miller, who's the number 5 team in that region. So, I mean, they've been battle-tested. They've gotten everyone's best shot. Tonight will be one of their easier games of the year against Strasburg Franklin, who's 3-7. So I look at Eastern Franklin or Eastern Beaver as
Having a
possibly
shot?
that
Okay,
team.
well, we'll certainly
sir.
root for them. They're pretty close to home there,
Yeah.
just over the county line. But anyway, we have hit the 10 o'clock hour, which means that we're complete. We want to thank Eric for coming on and
you.
giving us his perspective. Just done a great job in his position. We're so glad that he's here doing what he's doing. We urge you to check out that pre- and post-game coverage tonight if you haven't already done that. And, of course, I want to thank my buddies, Dan and Dan, for coming up. You notice that we didn't make you climb any stairs today, so to get back to the studio. And even though she didn't have her Ironman red shirt on, obviously we thank Jennifer for
Hey, if you
for doing-
can't make it to Alumni Stadium, how's this for a plug?
Yeah.
Watch us up at 6 Cents.
Hey, Bill
thanks,
Morgan.
Jennifer.
Bill Morgan himself. He asked us. He said, "Where's a good place to get a bite to eat?" And that's where we told him. 6 Cents in
Absolutely.
Jackson. If they have the game on, there you go. So
There we
you guys
go.
are right on.
Thank you.
Right, Jennifer is so versatile. Today she had to talk about football. Tomorrow it might be, or earlier in the week it
Give
might
her
have
a
been.
weekend
It might have been
off.
drug overdoses, the Apple Festival, anything.
Anything and everything. She'll talk about it.
She can talk about it.
She's the best.
Wind her up and she'll go. All right. Well, anyway, for Jennifer and everybody here at the counter, thank you very much for joining this segment of Main Street TV. It will be posted as well, on the Main Street Facebook page as well as the Telegram Facebook page. And listen to the high school football tonight, especially the Jackson Ironmen in New Philadelphia.
Go Ironman.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much.
At Vinton County National Bank, we believe in supporting the areas where we live and work. Now, we'd like to honor those who also serve our communities. Our new Community Champions account is especially for first responders, veterans, active military, and anyone employed in the fields of healthcare or education. This account offers rewards, discounts, and other benefits to those who give so much to others. Vinton County National Bank, rewarding those who serve.
From breaking news to heartwarming stories, the Telegram is your ticket to the latest buzz in town.
Read your daily dose of local headlines, sports, and entertainment and more in hand and on paper.
Get a print and digital subscription for only $7.95 per month. Delivered fresh every Wednesday and Saturday.
Visit thetelegramnews.com or call 740-286-3023 today.
Don't just read the news, be a part of it.